Welcome back to Junction 119. This is Kellan.
This is Casen.
And I'll go ahead and just give a preemptive quick apology to everyone that we didn't have a show last week. But then it really occurred to me, bro. We should probably go ahead and just add a disclaimer for football season right now, reminding everyone that the show's probably going to get a little sporadic here over the next like 3 months because of circumstances in both of our lives.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. We mentioned it before, but I am having a baby here in about a month. So
Yes.
it, once we get to October, there may be a time where we're just gone for a while.
Yeah, and just so everybody
But,
knows, I
but
mean, the show's not going away. I have some content ideas. Casey and I have been talking behind the scenes. You might even see some faces pop in you've never seen before. But in one way, shape, or form, we're gonna keep the show going. It's just like we used to pride ourselves, bro, on being like every week during the football season, and I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, this ain't gonna be that.
Yeah, and we're getting into your busy schedule with your
Indeed.
season, so it's just it'll be a bit sporadic for a while, but
But
we'll
one
try and
thing
get
I
something
will
out.
start to do. Sorry to interrupt you, man. Didn't mean to cut you off there. One thing I will start to do a lot better job of on our Instagram, those of us that listen also follow us on Instagram, start giving more updates as to when to next expect the next show and try to stick to that as much as possible. I'm going to start to put a lot more updates out there as I have done kind of a poor job of that in the previous like years we've had it, but now I'm finding it's probably more necessary than ever. So I'm like, oh, well, I'm a social media manager at my regular job. I'll just add that into that. So, but yeah, we are back. And for the first time this past week, we had a full slate of football. The last time you heard us was our college football preview. Thank you to Nate Glusich for joining us in the previous
Hmm.
program. But we begin we're going to go pop culture first and then dive into a little bit sports pop culture intersect. And then you're going to get, our thoughts on college and NFL to start the year. But we begin with some news that broke in the middle of last week. And honestly, it probably would have led last week's show if we had done one, bro. But
Hmm.
we did get some massive movie news and some massive movie news regarding a film which is in a lot of ways still making its rounds digitally and it's probably out of theaters now, but Superman is getting a sequel and it has already been announced for 2 years from now. uh,
Yep.
Man of Tomorrow, James Gunn announced last week. It's going to be Tuesday by the time you heard this, so I want to say it was like last Wednesday. It was announced a trifecta of posts from James Gunn, David Cornsweet, and um, uh, Nicholas Holt, excuse me.
Yep.
And yeah, it depicted, them in comic form, in character. Lex with his big mechanic suit on. Some of which looked like one image looked like them standing next to each other. One was them fighting, and one was them looking like they're teaming up. I have heard rampant speculation as to what Man of Tomorrow is going to be about, and it is slated for the spring summer 2027. This kind of blew me away, Kason. What were your thoughts when this was announced?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I not totally, surprised because I think we all kind of expected there'd be a sequel soon. But yeah, I mean, the 2027 date means that they'll probably start filming next year, early next year, I would imagine. So that's a, relatively quick turnaround, at least as far as right after the first one comes out. Um, and I mean, filming the sequel to Superman before Supergirl even comes out, definitely, a big, I think, mark of success for the beginning of the new universe. So I think that's a good sign. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what it is. I'm sure you have a bit of a better idea of at least what story arc it could go on based on the comics, but I'm curious. I'm intrigued to see, where they go from where we left off.
Yeah, and I've seen so many things speculating things about this movie over the last week that I'm kind of taking it all with not even a grain of salt. I'm kind of taking it with a yeah, all that could be true or none of it could be true, guys. All we know for a fact is that Superman and Lex are going to return in it. That's definitely like a given.
Mhm.
Um, I will go ahead and admit that I have not seen any of season two of Peacemaker yet. I know James Gunn has been talking about how it, he put out a statement that was like, where he said in passing that, Peacemaker season two directly leads into it. Look, that by definition cannot be true since that Peacemaker season two was in the can before they even knew Superman was going to be any success. Okay. But the events of the show will definitely be referenced and be a continuation into it. And Peacemaker's probably not a show that we're going to directly review on our show. However, it is a show that I'm looking to binge once it all comes out in due time. But anything I say would be speculation. I do think you're going to get a little bit of that up against each other stuff from Lex and Supes. I also think that they could take a stab at a bigger villain like a Brainiac, but a lot of Superman's main villains also are like kind of Justice League level threats. And so I'm kind of think that this really could be another balance of, yeah, it really could just be a mainly another Lex movie again, only now he's more of a threat. So I think it'll be more than that. But regardless, I'm really, really excited. I had a few people reach out to me and kind of say that, like, how's it feel knowing that, like, this is definitely happening and we're moving forward with, like, a DCU? I said, it feels really good. I'm glad Superman was really, really great. We'll talk about it also, I'm sure, in my top movies of the year and yours as well. But uh, this is just it fills me with the same sense of hope and optimism and excitement I had in the young MCU days, and it's just really cool to see unanimous kind of standing ovation for the DCU under James Gunn. That everyone's like, oh yeah, I want 10 more of this, and he's still just focusing on good scripts, which is what they should do.
Yeah. And I mean, definitely people have pointed out that it's not the only movie coming out in 2027, that there's also interesting timing with the second the Batman movie.
Yes,
So
yes.
we'll see what that is. I mean, I know there's been a lot of speculation about that.
Where do
So
you
we'll
sit?
see.
I got to ask you, where do you sit with that whole situation? Because we have not talked about that at all, and I do think it's worth
So
it to chime in before we move on.
I I haven't seen the Batman, but mainly because of the fact that like they said from the beginning it wasn't really relevant to the universe, and I was like, then why are
Gotcha.
we doing this?
You have not seen
But
it.
no, but
Gotcha. No problem.
if they come out and say actually, JK, it is, and the second one, will tie in to Superman, then like, yeah, I'd go and watch it, and it'd be part of it, and it makes sense. But that's part of what I was of what I'm saying is like sort of the issue is like they said from the beginning that this really awesome movie that everybody loved wasn't relevant or part of the DCU, and I'm like, then what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing?
Well, and I was kind of on record saying that maybe they should have just completely scrapped any plans for a future Batman thing, but the a sequel to the Batman. But I've also heard people say smartly, I think Reeves may have written two scripts or wrote two endings to a script in which they could add his story, in one in which they could add his story, could not add. I have not seen Penguin. I heard it was really solid. Not like amazing, but good, solid. I can tell you that there's nothing that happens in the Batman Part One that wouldn't necessarily fit into the DCU. They do have some cameos where it's like you could just never you could just never mention those again. However, it comes down to me, how committed is James Gunn to the whole brave and bold concept, because I still think you could integrate his ideas. They've talked about how there's probably going to be a Robin in the second one. They've talked about how age wise this does kind of line up to where Supes and Batman would be. And let's be real, I actually think Pattinson opposite David Cornsweet could go hard. I'm not even going to lie. I think it could go really
Mhm.
well. So, because they're supposed to be contrasting tones with each other. They're supposed to be different, and I think that would make any kind of potential world's finest in the future very cool.
I
So
I want to know your take on this because I think that the idea of that is so intriguing, and we've talked offline about the TV show meetup of when they first encounter each other in the animated series,
yeah,
and in my head that's so different than like the like Man of Steel version of the that meetup when they did Batman versus Superman,
Yeah.
because like the whole point is that you have dark Batman versus hopeful cheery Superman, but when they're both just dark and gloomy, I don't, you don't get like, you're like, what is the point?
Yeah,
Like,
tonally, they're supposed to conflict, and the if you haven't looked it up, do meet how the world's finest team up that they do in the animated series because it is one of the best interpretations of them meeting because that was supposed to be before the Justice League show, but in the animated universe, that was legitimately the first time they ever met each other, and it's so well done, it's so well written, and I'm like, yeah, it's probably exactly how this would go, and so I think something like that could go really well. The whole aspect of them being enemies really didn't come around in comics till really like the Dark Knight Returns.
mhm,
And by that point, Bruce is so jaded and old that like Soups has just had
yeah,
enough of him and he's just there at odds. But 9 times out of 10, they are good friends.
right,
And in
right.
most
Well,
stories,
and I
and in
mean,
canon, you know?
you know the like, I guess that the characters more than I would, but I to me the vibe that I get of like what them meeting is supposed to be is Soups like taking everything at face value with this guy, and then like at some point realizing that like you know, he got, you know, one pulled over on him, and that he actually can't trust him, and then he's like, okay, I guess I can't be so you know, trusting with everybody I meet, and then he learns a lesson about that, and then they kind of
He
respect each other
does.
for that.
And on the flip side of that, Clark makes Bruce a better team member.
Yeah.
Clark makes him a better person in trusting someone, in realizing that he doesn't have to be brooding all the time, to rely on others that they're going to come through in ways that someone, in other words, Bruce finally understands, oh, there's more trustworthy people out there that can help me beyond the ones that I trained directly, which his Bat family members, you know,
Hmm.
which prior to like Soups and other heroes being in his circle, that wasn't really possible for Bruce Wayne. So they're good for each other. And when it's literally the two of them trying to figure something out, it's pretty sweet because it's like, yeah, they're so different, but they see each other's conflicts. They see each other's issues, you know? And so I watched that scene in the animated series, which I don't want to go too down this rabbit hole. I see that in my head between like David Cornsweet and Robert Pattinson, and I'm like, yeah, I could see them doing this scene to a T and it being perfect. like
Hmm.
like these two guys,
Absolutely.
like
Yeah,
I like
absolutely.
or some other Batman if they're gonna
Hmm.
go, you know, there's quite a few actors that have been tossed around, but I do think we'll have an idea here soon of what they decide. But I do think with how gung ho they still are with the Batman Part Two, they're serious about it, and I I would wager more towards they're finding a way to team them up, not team them up, but like to merge
Yeah.
the universes
Hmm.
in a way that makes sense. Because to me, it just makes sense. And if people like Matt Reeves and James Gunn likes Matt Reeves so much that hey, one way, shape, or form, the story will continue. So, is that all, or you want to move on?
Yeah, I think we can move on. Yeah,
Yeah,
we talked a lot about that, but yeah,
yeah.
so
Let
we'll
us
just
know
have
your
to
thoughts
keep an eye out,
on
and
Man of Tomorrow and all that good stuff. So, moving on, I do have another piece of business here we got to talk about because this was another piece of news, some bad news. It's to contrast our good story to start the show. And that is that EA Sports has, I guess, pulled out of this market, this idea that they were going to create a college basketball video game, at least as of right now, of this taping of this show of any kind. And it has to do large part. This news kind of broke in at the same time, along with a game that you are actually much more familiar with in recent years than myself. Uh, 2K is serious and is moving forward with some form of college basketball integration in its own video games. And I guess word has it
yeah,
that they have pocketed a lot of the big schools already who want
yeah,
to work with 2K versus EA. I have mixed feelings about it, mostly negative feelings, but I want to hear what you have to say.
yeah. So from my understanding of the situation, EA Sports pretty much only ever does anything if they can sign exclusive deals. And there were a good amount of schools that 2K had gotten to before EA, to where EA was basically unable to do that. And I've seen and so EA basically just decided they're not going to make the game anymore. And to which I've seen people be mad at EA for like insisting on this exclusive, rights deal. I haven't seen anything, saying this, but like, how do we know that the 2K thing isn't exclusive and that EA can't do it with these schools either? So
Mm.
like, I'm just saying that like, if I was 2K, I would. I mean, if EA is hunting the same schools you are, I'd get an exclusive deal first so that you could like, so because I know the whole point was that there'd be a game with all 300 plus programs, and that's the entire point of college basketball. Um, and from what it sounds like 2K announced was that they will be making a game that has 100 plus programs involved.
Yeah.
I know I think they are making an individual standalone game and I think they said targeted for 27, but I think they said there's something coming in 26. And I believe what that intention is that it will be a bit of like a college in-game add-on to 2K immediately next year. And I
Hmm.
think that's sort of because they made it sound like something smaller for 2026 with like the game for 2027. So whatever, I don't know. I mean, I still kind of was on the fence of like how are we even going to be able to do 300 programs because that is a lot of graphics data. Like
Yeah.
college football is big enough with the 130. Like how are we going to do 300 teams with all their uniforms, rosters, logos, graphics, stadium scans or arena scans? Like I don't know how this was ever going to be able to be done. And so I think maybe you kind of do just have to pick 100. I don't know how you do that,
You pick, well, I think that getting to that for
but
sure.
that is the issue though. Is like
Right. I mean, it's sort of like like to do 100 at once. I mean, I think I even said at the time when we first talked about it that I can see a smaller release, or maybe they release all the programs, but not all the stadiums are in the game. Like a whole bunch have
yeah,
generic stadiums, so and then they add a conference or two per year,
yeah.
sort of like FIFA used to do. Have a lot more generic stadiums, literally just to put to put the game out. I could have seen a situation like that, but taking for the situation as we have it right now, it annoys me because 2K essentially has cornered off the basketball video game market anyway. And as you have said before, have not been great stewards of it. Now, I would say that most sports gaming has been awful for the last like decade and a half. It's been terrible. It's been the worst it's been since we were growing up, literally. But I still think there's an avenue here by which there's some enough dollar signs to where even 2K says, okay, it probably makes a lot more sense for us to make a standalone game, even if it means VC to what is it, the virtual currency,
Yeah.
VC to enroll or something like that. I heard those jokes being
Yeah,
tossed around.
yeah,
To
yeah,
transfer, you're gonna have to pay
yeah.
X amount of VC, but like that's the sleaziness of a company like that. You know what I mean?
Which like that's the thing of like you can make fun of the EA stuff, but it's like the EA pushes Ultimate Team, but like you can just not play it.
Yeah,
Whereas for 2K, you have to
you
buy
basically have to
like
buy it,
you
play it.
have to buy like $100 worth of VC to be able to do anything in the game,
Correct.
like which is insane. And
Yeah.
so like that's the difference. And so it's going to be virtually unplayable unless you give them another $100 on top of the 80 this game is probably going to cost.
Yeah, and you know the franchise modes in 2K I've always hated. They haven't been very good. And so they're just very unrealistic. They're not very polished. A lot of little features are missing out of the gate
They're
in the years I've
they're
played.
I would say bloated would be a good definition
Yeah.
of like what these 2K games are. And like I think I talked about it recently too of like they introduced this My City thing, the city thing in the My Career mode, and it started out kind of interesting, and then it's gotten to this point to where it's such a big map that it takes you forever to do anything. Like it takes you 5 minutes to go from the gym where you have to work out to get these attribute boosts,
Yeah.
and then you have to walk to the arena to play your game. And it's
Right.
like it takes you 20 minutes to even be able to play a game. It's
And
like, what are we doing?
what's funny is the last 2K game I played, which I believe was 2K23, um, I obviously was going around the city, which I always say for any virtual world or space within a video game, if your traversal's not good, I hate it. Like if your traversal's not fast enough or fun to do, and 2K ultimately is not good until you get like the skateboard or like the scooter or whatever,
Yeah.
which again, things you got to earn or in game or pay for. But either way, I do remember thinking this concept would be really cool in a college basketball game, and it's the campus and their version of like Road to Glory or whatever.
Hmm.
And I just think that like there's so much creative liberty that you could do with that that I just hope that there's enough people with ambition inside the 2K space, offices, community, quite frankly, that push for that. And I'm like, will it
Yeah.
have everything we want in a college basketball game at launch? Probably a guaranteed there's no way possible that to expect
Mm.
that. But if they can put out something, whether it be in game or on their engine, like their own kind of like solid like bones of a game to
Mm.
start, that's going to give me a little bit more hope in that. Okay, maybe we will at some point get to a spot where all 300 some, whatever, which would really be like 600 some if you go the women's programs too. So
Yeah. I
uh,
mean, no, it is kind of a neat
that's what I
idea.
can
I
hope for.
mean, like in my head, like thinking of like they do the like city thing on a campus,
Yeah,
and so it's like you're walking to Anderson to play your game, you're walking to Harshman Courts to do the park basketball
yeah.
games. Like that'd be kind of fun. That'd be
Your
kind of fun
guys,
for me.
like you go to the student union for some sort of NIL thing. You
Yeah,
go
yeah,
down, or do you go downtown for NIL thing? You go like student union to like keep your grades up or check on something, your status or whatever. You go
yeah.
to, I don't know,
Well, that's where you would buy. That's like where you buy like a clothes and stuff at the
yeah,
bookstore.
yeah. Like
Yeah,
you buy gear for you and like stuff. Like I just in my head, I'm like that because if you don't know, and I'll just say this before we kind of put it to you could kind of move on here. Um, There was the main menu of college basketball 10, the very last one for EA Sports, which the previous two or three games have had this, was a shoot around at the main menu. And
mm,
literally, your guy, who I think actually was supposed to be Blake Griffin because he was on the cover of that game, you can just shoot and dunk with him and just test the game mechanics. I'm like, man, something like this for 2K or updated would be cool if this is where your main menu started in you're on the campus on the main menu, but oh, I can actually walk around it and just immediately go, do my thing for the next game. I don't know. I just
mm.
this I and that was such a foresight. You know what I mean? That was back in 2009. Those people putting that main menu together is cool. So every time I fire that game up now, I usually spend the first 5 minutes just refamiliarizing myself with the controls, with the with the opening shoot around spot. So um
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, so
yeah.
we'll see. I don't know.
It
I
sounds
don't
like we're
have a ton
both
of
not
faith in 2K,
completely
but
like,
mm,
out on this, saying that this, I mean, this is not good, but I also wanted to say this. EA was always better at nailing the atmosphere of like college basketball, I should say.
mhm.
Gameplay was meh. Gameplay never quite really felt great, and that never really improved. And they tried to bring back NBA Live, and it crashed and burned because they just can't touch the behemoth that is 2K. 2K has basically nailed the gameplay to where it's pretty fun. Yeah, there are years where it's kind of harder than others, but generally speaking, you can hit the sticks and play 2K. Um,
Mhm.
I keep saying if they could nail a college basketball atmosphere and like really go in on it, you know what I mean? It could be
I
really cool.
I I would feel more confident if they like came out and said like, hey, we worked with some of the people that made college football to give us some
Mm.
advice on how to actually build this. And like if they came out and were like, guys, we promise we're not breaking this, we're doing our best. Like if they actually would say something like that of like, we're dedicated to making sure this is actually fan specific and like fan respecting
Fan approved.
to all the programs involved. Yeah, that I think would make people feel a lot more confident in it. But who knows? I
I,
guess
I
we'll see whatever they end up coming out with.
I also don't. think that I mean, they may not even have to talk to necessarily a competitor of college football, although that might happen a little bit. I am fully confident that 2K could scrounge together a team that is as pumped about college basketball as the EA Sports
Mhm.
crew is. If they said, "Hey, we're just going to be ambitious and just go for it. You guys can do whatever you want. Get to work." Like, "Oh, we can?" Well, then yeah, let's do it with our engine, you know?
Yeah,
So,
I'm laughing in my head, just kind of thinking about some of the storylines that they've made for my career,
oh,
and
dude,
so it could the storylines for my career in college are going to go off the rails, and it's hilarious.
it's going to be awesome, especially in the transfer portal and NIL
Yeah,
space,
yeah.
you know? And, in a world where sports games are all trying to kind of integrate a story mode into it, like I've been playing around a little bit with the story mode in F125, and like it's believable. It's basically just like an ongoing episode of Drive to Survive. But I'm like,
Hmm.
it works. I mean, that's how people consume the sport now, you know? So stick a pin in that. We will be talking about it. That was definitely deflating news for me at first, especially with what I do for a living. But I'm not. It wasn't defeating news. I'm still sitting here saying we could still have something fun here in a few years, but it's
Yeah.
going to take some time. So, all right, time to dive into the gridiron. Is it time?
Hmm.
It,
Yeah. Let's get into it.
so, listen, it's been 2 weeks of college football. We didn't get a chance to really talk about the opening week, so we can kind of start with that and then kind of take that case and into like this past week. We're not have to go game by game, just the big things that kind of stood out in the opening week of the season. I think it would be fair to start with the hat you have on, quite frankly,
Yeah. Yeah.
just because it's now been a couple of weeks. They opened the season with Texas, took care of them. Ohio State did in a really defensive game that I only saw highlights of because I was busy covering a
Hmm.
game of my own. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, you want to take it away and talk about that to start?
Yeah. So far Ohio State beat Texas 14-7, and a lot more of a low scoring affair than people came in expecting.
Yep.
And then they beat Grambling 70-0 this
Right.
past weekend. So I mean Ohio State definitely made a statement has made a statement that they haven't gone anywhere. There were a lot of questions coming into the season. I think most of the questions about the team of like, as to why they weren't like gonna be number one coming into the season after winning the title was that there were questions at quarterback, and there were some defensive starters that left for the NFL or graduated. And so I think that there were just a few questions regarding that because people didn't really know how good Sane was going to be. And I think all those questions have been answered, that they're perfectly fine and they're
Yeah.
exactly where they were last year. So, yeah, I mean, Julian Sands looked amazing so far. He basically had one of the best quarterback performances this past weekend since CJ Stroud, which at Ohio State anyway. So that
Sure.
was fun. But yeah, I think the story is more on the defense because like the quarterback, like everybody kind of figured that Ryan Day was going to be able to get the quarterback figured out. There were the questions I think were going to be on the defense of like you lost a lot of talent. You lost JT, you lost Jack Sawyer, you lost. I mean, so it's just kind of like, all right, so how's the defensive line going to be? And Matt Patricia, there were a lot of questions about Matt Patricia because I think most people remember him the most, or at least more recently, as the quote, I guess, disgraced Lions coach.
Yeah,
And
which
so
is,
people were like, but I think the contrast of the same week of having Matt Patricia put Arch Manning into a blender and then having his former boss absolutely roasted by a terrible TCU team is hilarious. So people were like, wait,
yeah.
it was Bill Belichick just a Matt Patricia merchant? So yeah, I mean so yeah, I think that that's good for Columbus fans. Uh I I think it is interesting. I mean it is kind of interesting that like there was so much hype on Texas as usual, and then it's like, okay, maybe they're not back. So
Well, I mean,
It is
I
what it is, but
by all intents and purposes, I think Texas has been back now for a number of years, back in the sense of they're contending for national championships again, which is the case.
yeah,
That's the case. This was one of those games where it's kind of a mutually assured we're fine if we lose game because it's
yeah.
like the way the playoff is now. Every these both of these teams are going to be playoff teams. I have no doubt. It would be shocking if one or both of them weren't. So I also didn't necessarily think it was fair how much Arch got torched online, and I really felt like the losing quarterback that was going to happen. But I wanted to reiterate something we kind of talked about on our show the previous. Arch has done nothing. His self has done nothing to like toot his own horn, be boastful in the media, become a bulletin board. He's the complete. He's been a Manning. That's it. Literally, he just comes from the quarterback tree, and you know, with as questionables at times as his grandfather was with the Saints. My shout out my dad. He always used to say, he's like, you know, the best thing that ever happened to all the Mannings is that Peyton was good, because Eli has had years where he has really been bad. His dad was like okay at best, and now it's like, yeah, well, Peyton
Mhm.
was the best one, like clearly.
Yeah,
And
I think people kind of
yeah,
forget
yeah,
that Archie was not great.
he wasn't
Like he
great.
was
Like,
not great.
yeah, it's a
Because
good
I
thing
think people just
Peyton.
kind of assumed he was good, but like
Yeah. And
average.
and Eli was good too, but like when Eli was bad, he was really bad. Like so
Yeah.
bad that I don't think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame bad. Bad. That's a different conversation. My point being that if he just stays the course and runs this Texas offense, you know, they'll generally be fine. But if he can never really take over a game and truly have his play be the deciding factor, that's what's going to ultimately may not bury them, but hold them back.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely I don't even think this is like really in a bad way. I think it's just kind of like people walk away from that game and I saw somebody say, "Okay, so this is why people don't think Archer's going into the draft this year." And I mean,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily anything bad. It's just like you look at his career and he played really terrible competition in high school. So he hasn't really ever seen good teams and he's seen limited action as the backup last year. And then so and like his first game as a starting quarterback is against probably one of the best defenses in the country.
If not the
It's like,
best defense
congrats,
he'll see all
if
year.
not the best.
Yeah.
Like it's
I
like
mean,
here you go. Like and like to his defense, like Matt Patricia was doing like NFL defense exotic coverages out there that
oh
like
yeah.
nobody in college has ever seen
Well,
before.
dude, they still have dogs out there. You got Jalen McClain. You still have Caleb Downs. We forgot to say
Yeah,
his name in the last
yeah,
episode. So I mean, like they didn't go anywhere. But every year that everyone says Ohio State might be down, all the dudes that are left are like, yeah. Shut up. We're gonna show you how. We're gonna show you how not down we are. Um, yeah, and I think that if that's your litmus test for as like a future NFL prospect, which I think even this game's not really that fair to say.
yeah.
But in reality, stat line wise, Arch and Julian had very much the same kind of game. Arch was a little bit worse, had 10 less, had about, he actually, Arch had more completions actually, 17 for 30, whereas Julian was 13 for 20, threw it less times, but still, percentage
I had like
wise,
four
better.
drops though. They're like
Yeah.
four drops
And
that should have been caught.
126 yards for Julian Sand, one touchdown, 170 yards for Arch, one touchdown, one pick. So, I mean, okay. So both quarterbacks had very similar days on a day where three touchdowns were scored in the whole game. So,
Mhm.
I'm not out on Texas. I'm obviously never out on Ohio State. I just think that this is the first game. It's also the first game of the season. So, do I think Ohio State probably still wins that game if it's in Austin? I don't know, because I still think Ohio State's probably pound for pound better right now, but that doesn't mean that by the playoff time, if they meet again, we won't see this again. So
Mhm.
let's bounce around because I do want to get to mainly the games that are really worth talking about. I really want to hear your take on what was the beginning of the Belichick era in North Carolina, because that is something that I
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
would have wanted to discuss if we were on here last year. And let me just go ahead and say Belichick has
yeah.
since have won their first game with him as the head coach. They beat Charlotte in a game that you hope they wouldn't have lost. But they took care of Charlotte. Listen, on the night of Labor Day, they got their doors blown off, absolutely blown off by TCU. And th- that's what happened. Okay. There's so much to dive in here, some of which is obviously not all worth diving into. But I really just want to hear, what was your kind of immediate reaction, takeaway? Wow.
Yeah. So I think for what everything the story of that game I think was sort of the roller coaster ish ride that happened at the beginning to where it was UNC gets the ball, immediately goes down and scores. People are like, oh, Bill Belichick is back.
Yeah.
He is back. And then it's like, oh no. And I look, I think that I don't know for sure how much of this is really on any of the players. I think a lot of this is literally just the environment because there's been so much talk the entire offseason about the head coach's girlfriend who's
Yeah.
the same age as the players.
Yeah.
And so it's just like so I think the players are probably which this is I think one of the most bizarre things is that like the whole Patriot way of the Belichick era in New England is like the opposite of what's happening now. Of like now the entire offseason is Belichick's girlfriend.
It was a
That's the
circus.
whole it
It
was a
was
circus.
it was a circus brought about very much by the two of them.
Yes.
It was distractions
Yes.
galore. Obviously, there was the interview which went viral. It was everything contrasting anything we had ever thought we knew about Bill Belichick prior to this summer in a catastrophically
Hmm.
um, handled set of things that happened PR wise that I'm just like, you couldn't have scripted
I
this going any worse, you
so
know?
I don't know if you've heard about this, but so there's a podcast that's part of the Athletic Network called the Sports Gossip Show.
Yeah,
And I they had a very long
they're good.
episode talking about Jordan Hudson.
They're very good. Yep.
And so they did an episode on Jordan Hudson's Miss Maine pageant competition to the point where Jordan Hudson called them
Called them.
and for hours. And so they were and so they detailed this whole conversation where they talked to Jordan Hudson for like a week trying to get her to come on their show to talk, and she was about to do it and then changed her mind at the last minute and then yelled at them for an hour and a half after that. And this was like 2 weeks before kickoff, and we're like, what is happening? Like
Hmm.
this is the narrative that Belichick wants his girlfriend to be having right before
Yeah,
the season starts.
and
Like,
absolutely. And getting a little bit more serious here, the outright, in my opinion, sleaziness of that whole situation, and how bizarre it is on the outside. The hubris to think you're just going to come into UNC and fire everyone, bring in 70
mhm.
new players, establish what is your situation, do literally nothing well in terms of not creating a distraction, that the door's getting blown off. But not to mention, you got a TCU team coming in who's not a pushover, led by Sonny Dykes, who's got every motivation in the world to let's embarrass these guys straight up. No one's talking about us, so let's just go ball. I just think to myself, if you're him, it's just like it's a the life comes at you fast moment of just, oh, maybe this isn't going to go particularly well. And I was saying to you after that game, I said, if this ends up Urban Meyer with Jacksonville, I would in no way be surprised. And honestly, it probably is
Yeah.
leaning more direct. It's more
Yeah.
likely that that happens than it is the latter, you know?
Which so this is the I will never understand the thought process from the UNC president and athletic director that made this decision because you saw multiple NFL teams pass over on him for a reason.
Half the league.
Like
They were all
like
like,
nobody in the league wanted anything to do with him
nope.
because of what comes with him of like the fact of you hire Bill Belichick, he's going to fire everyone, bring in his entire thing, and it's going to control your department. Whether you want it to or not, it is going to be a completely different situation and vibe. And no, not a lot of people want to sign on for that.
You add
And
with that the weirdness of his personal life on top of that. Not to
yeah,
mention, everyone is. There's one last take about him that I will say, as far as him goes specifically. I think now he has solidified a future in which I think every room he walks into, it's sort of like, is everything we thought about Bill Belichick 100% a lie? Because
yeah,
in terms of his brilliance in the game, because maybe not 100%, but 85% of it. Because without Tom Brady, he is not only not a Hall of Fame coach, he's not even a winning coach. Okay.
yeah.
So it's now
I
looking a
mean,
lot
he
more
was
like
yeah, like
thank
he was half
thank
good.
goodness this throwaway sixth round pick that you guys got out of Michigan had to come in an emergency when Drew Bledsoe got injured, or none of
Yeah,
this maybe would have ever happened. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
I've been
I
thinking about
mean,
that all last
he
week.
was like half decent as the Browns coach, um, but like not anything like he was, winning, I guess, but like whatever. And he won a Super Bowl with Parcells, right?
Yeah,
And so
he was the defensive
it was,
coordinator for the Giants.
but
Yep.
like that was also Parcells, so it's like I don't know how much you can
It was
attribute
Parcells, and
like.
also Scott Norwood missed a 40-yard field goal. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's also true. That's also true. They almost lost that
I
game.
mean they shouldn't have won
Uh,
that game. But yeah, I get your point.
I, but like, so that is a really good question of it's like, is everything a lie? Because every single time we've seen him removed from the situation, it's been bad.
Yeah.
Like the entire tenure in New England after Brady left, not good. This with no Tom Brady at quarterback, not good.
And prior to
So
Tom
it's
Brady, like in his whole coaching career. So,
yeah.
head coaching career, I should say. So, I don't know. When I look around now, I'm thinking to myself, he's the opposite of Andy Reid, who's made every single player who's ever come through his system look amazing. So,
Yeah.
you could even add some guys owe their careers to him, actually, over there in Kansas City, and in the Eagles, quite frankly,
Yeah.
before that. So anyway, I wanted to take a moment, discuss that game. UNC is not a football school. I think ultimately they're going to be a 500 team in the ACC, and what it'll be is what it'll be. I don't think they'll be like Florida State last year, because I do think at some point. But if that's the way it goes, hey, it'll
That
certainly be
that
entertaining
that's
in the
that is
ACC.
another thing on top of that of like you're going to sign the keys of this entire program over to this guy and you're not even a football school.
Nope,
Like it's not like,
he's going to make us one.
yeah, it's I don't even know what would I mean maybe Virginia Tech. I don't know who would qualify as a football school in that like context. I don't really know. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know. I mean, outside of Alabama, I don't really know where you would argue that. But uh, as far as one that would have an opening, but
Oh,
yeah,
I got you. Yeah.
it's just bizarre. It's just bizarre. And it's a circus, and I think part of me feels bad because like this is a guy who had the opportunity to just like retire and hide
Retire.
away forever and
Generally.
he would have gone, he would have remained with the legacy of like the best coach in the history of the universe, like won all these Super Bowls, and then you could argue like the game maybe just passed him by and he just didn't like and to now it's treading into territory to where it's like, oh, he just doesn't get it.
Yeah,
Like he just
he's like actively destroying his coaching legacy now,
Yeah, because
potentially.
he
Like,
like the which is the problem that was in New England was he could not relate to the younger players who did not want to buy into the Patriot way. And so he went to college kids and thought that would translate.
yeah,
Like,
I just I will leave with two things here. I'll say, listen, I think we're gonna learn more about this whole situation over time, okay? But I'll end by saying a positive thing about Bill Belichick, okay? He must seriously, truly, in his heart of hearts, at was 73 years old or whatever he is, want to still coach. He genuinely want to still coach. He wanted an NFL job. He tried to get one. It didn't happen. He ultimately, they're rolling the dice with this whole thing at UNC. I just feel like you don't put yourself through all this if you don't genuinely, at the end of the day, still not in your heart want to keep coaching until you physically cannot anymore. And if in Bill's mind before he took this job, he could realistically coach at a level, I don't want to say a high level, in his mind, probably a high level, for another like 5 to 6 years, I think with him, like it would have been worth it because otherwise, what would you put yourself through this for at 70 something years old? Like, and you know, maybe people in his family said, don't do it. I don't know. I don't want to
Yeah.
speculate on anything we don't know anything about. But for what it is now, it's a bizarre, like you said, circus of a situation. And I want to leave it there because let's get to some other games, just to get to anything we didn't talk about because I made a mistake in our last show. I said Brian Davis. I meant Brian Kelly because Brian Kelly's LSU
Yeah.
Tigers went into the other Death Valley, which is no longer the real one anymore. I never really thought it was. If you thought, I always thought like, well, let's use Death Valley, but I spent time in the Carolinas. What can I say? But LSU, who honestly, who shout out Lee Corso, making his last prediction in the last week and change, had them as like I think he picked them to win the national championship or had them in the game or something along those
I
lines.
something like that. Yeah.
I mean, I
I
don't I didn't pick the same, but like they're certainly playing like they can.
well,
It's too early, but yep,
so I
that was such a I
it's
don't
two
agree
weeks
thing.
it's 2 weeks into the season,
It is.
but like it's funny because like the translation of this game has like completely flipped because coming into the season, everybody was like, "Oh, Dabo's back. Clemson's gonna roll in the ACC. I Clemson's gonna be back." And then when LSU looked good and upset Clemson, people were like, "Oh, wow, okay, these are two really high level contending teams." And then you walk into week two, and they both almost lose to group of five teams, and you're like, "Wait, maybe they both just suck." Like, maybe they both just suck.
Now, to be fair, LSU did win like 23-7 against Louisiana Tech, but like still,
Louisiana Tech.
yeah, like they,
Like,
they
what are
still
we
didn't look
talking
good
about?
for like the majority of the game. So you're right. I think I don't know. I was thinking about our show today, dude, and I really was thinking about this. I'm like, I feel so similar to how I felt this week a year ago, in which yeah,
Yeah,
we got to rank teams because we got to rank teams, but I have no idea who the best team in college football is yet. I have no idea.
yeah.
We really did not have an idea, if you recall, until like week 6 or like 7 of like, okay, these are like
Mhm.
after like a month, it's like, okay, who realistically could win this thing at the end of the year?
Yeah,
Probably like
yeah,
4 to 5 teams, legitimately. And those 4 to 5 is about what it became. You had a couple
yeah,
surprises in there, but I mean, some teams that probably went farther than people thought. I feel the exact same way this year, but even more so because it's like you're right. I feel like I've seen minus like Ohio State and really like Texas so far, and even them to some degree. I've seen everyone else kind of look somewhat bad, and not that great. They're on
Well,
my. Go ahead, go ahead. I was
well,
gonna
I was just gonna say
mention
that, like,
Florida State, like
yeah.
this
I
Florida
mean,
States of the world,
week two last year, Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois,
right?
and everybody said their season's over, and Notre Dame made it to the championship game. So, you're right. You're absolutely right in the fact that we could be totally like selling our stock on somebody who can make it there to that final game in January. We don't know. I mean, nobody knows. And so, I think that is a testament to what we said it last year. And I think that's in this era is there's a lot of depth on a
Yeah,
lot of these teams,
yeah,
and it's good for the sport. Like teams aren't there aren't like three teams that have a chance. Like there are quality rosters all around the country, and games are competitive up and down the schedule, and it makes for every week being compelling. And I think that's good for the sport.
I gotta ask you, because it needs to be asked. It needs to be asked because Kalen DeBoer over there at Alabama. Listen, not only does he spell my name wrong, okay,
Well,
that's
it's not your name;
I know
it's
it's a different
Kalen.
name. That's a stupid thing to begin this with. I really, really do understand the sentiment of that dude could have stayed at Washington for the next 10, 15 years, been the man, made them incredible. They were entering the Big Ten. That could have been just his squad over there. Now he's down at Alabama, and they lose, basically get their clock cleaned by Florida State. And then they win 73 to nothing against UL Monroe, who, like, that poor team. I felt like it's like, oh, they're mad now. They're mad and they're going to destroy us. We're going to score 73. And I almost feel like they're like, we got to score like 70 because
Yeah, yeah.
we're mad and we can, and we want to show that we're not like completely bad. Um, Alabama, as we knew them, is gone. The Saban, Alabama, and you and I said they were gone last year. We were like,
Yeah,
these
yeah,
dudes are soft, like straight
yeah,
up. The last great Alabama
yeah.
team that I saw lost to Michigan a couple, like the year before, 2 years
And
ago.
yeah, in the
That
Rose
was
Bowl.
it.
Yeah.
That was the last say. The Saban coached them, but I will
Because
say,
you got guys in the Bama locker room making TikToks, and we're like, what?
yeah,
Where's Saint Nick?
I'm
Get
like
Saint
Nick.
Nick
I'm
back.
like Nick Saban would never allow this. And I heard some people say this in other podcasts and in on ESPN and others. It's like I think even Saban would be surprised that the I don't know how you put this. The juice level of them would have dropped so much so quickly. And I'm sitting here thinking, I think in this day and age, it was only going to do that. Like, it
I
was only going to do that unless you hired like maybe an immediate like person of him. You have to
you
maintain so much of the system for you to stay
I
that
have
good.
two things to say about
Okay,
this.
yeah,
One, I saw a joke on Twitter that I think is actually not incorrect. Somebody was saying that like Alabama like sold their soul when they turned Nick Saban's office into a Verizon store, and it's literally like you see like I don't we've seen his office in like Aflac commercials and stuff, and there's pictures going around, but like Nick Saban's office used to have these big wooden bookcases, and it was really like classic, and it was his style of like the
yeah, looks
traditional
cool. Looked really
stuff.
cool.
And then you see what Kalen DeBoer did to his office, and it's like the most like it looks like a McDonald's, like like clean minimalist lines of just white, and it's like
Yeah,
what are
they
we doing here?
modernized it.
Yeah,
Like
it's like
Saban looked like a general's office, man.
yeah, like he had like 1,000 books with like all of his rings and trophies, and
All
it
of
was
his
like
books, rings,
yeah.
trophies, footballs. I'm like, look at all of the wars I've won.
Yeah, and like that was the allure. It was like
Yeah.
this is somebody who has stories to tell, and and I think that was a part of it. But I also think that to some degree, I this is Saban's fault because he didn't the timing didn't help them at all,
No.
and he didn't properly establish like a succession plan. Like part of the reason Ohio State's where they are is because Urban just decided Ryan Day is the guy who's going to follow me. He's going to be the next guy, so he's not going to leave. And then if you think about who Nick Saban's had on staff, you Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian, like he's had these guys who he could have retired several years ago and handed the roster to, and
Yo,
they not missed a beat.
if he had handed the keys to like Sark right now, I'd be sitting
Yeah,
here be like, yo, Alabama, I think they would still be struggling, but being that truly he wanted to go off into the sunset and let the school do what it wanted to do, I think is also a positive thing about Nick Saban. Like, it's like, look, I had my time. Let's just go be an analyst and all that stuff. And to be fair, he's still a massive supporter of Alabama and everything. But I don't necessarily, I don't know if you recall. I mean, Alabama going completely outside the realm and getting Kalen DeBoer for this job. I was like, that just has bad written on it.
well, I do remember at the time that like five people said no
Right,
first.
right.
So like they kind
Because
of were out of options.
Because it's kind
Like
of like who wants to follow up the greatest coach
I know
ever
they
after
called Dan
that?
Lanning. I know they called like I think they called both coordinators at Georgia. I think they called everybody in the South, and they said no, and they were like, okay,
They called
well,
Bobby Hurley, even though he doesn't coach the same sport, but
yeah,
everyone calls that guy after every season. Come be our head coach in football. Leave UConn. But like that's the joke, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's a job that kind of everyone said, "Oh, I do not want to deal with that."
yeah,
Exact thing that Kalen DeBoer is probably going to be dealing with a lot this season. Um, But I also can see Alabama football going the way of Florida football with Napier, where I think the pressure will be a lot higher there. That'll get rid of him quicker.
I mean, and
But if you
and
told me
in
they weren't going to
fairness,
have success for the next 5 years, I believe it.
in fairness to Kalen DeBoer, I don't think he cares because he got
Right.
a massive check
Yep.
to take this job,
His buyout's
and
huge.
when they inevitably fire him, he's going to get another massive check,
He is.
and everybody's going to say, "Oh, it was an impossible situation," and he's going to go back to the West Coast and get another job anyway. So it's like I
Probably.
don't like it's kind of a win-win situation. It's like either it works out or it doesn't, and nobody blames me because the situation's
Yeah.
untenable.
And my other thing
Like,
about Kalen DeBoer is like he's not a we know he's a good coach, okay? He's a good system guy. Can he win the SEC? I don't know. I don't think the sample size has been big enough. But he's not Nick Saban. Nobody is. Literally no one is except Nick
yeah,
Saban. So that's the thing I think that I would come to his defense a bit as well if we're gonna rag on him a little bit. But Alabama looks like a middle of the road contending SEC team right now. They would be lower on my list, but until they lose a lot more games, they're still there. They're what Alabama is now.
yeah, yeah.
So that's all I wanted to talk about as far as games from this last week. We don't have to necessarily preview this next week. We can dive into NFL if you want and kind of close things out because we'll have a lot more
Yeah. I
ball to
mean,
talk about.
the only comment I'll add is
Hmm.
Michigan, LOL.
Michigan LOL,
Yikes,
Bowling
yikes.
Green, the power of Pudge is one
I
and
look,
one.
I look, I will say it. Bowling Green looks good. I mean,
Hey, they look
they
good.
were very competitive against Cincinnati,
Yeah.
and we'll see.
And I think honestly, like having looked at that game, if they were a bit more aggressive at times, I think they could have been a little closer towards the end of that game. I think they played a bit more conservatively than they had to, and that really was what contributed to them. I still think
Yeah.
Cincy would have won, but I'm just saying I really think it could have been like anyone's game towards the end. So, and I just got to say, shout out Kent State. It was a really cool vibe here.
I
Yeah, to win their first game
yeah.
in a couple years here, and to be a part of that here was really cool.
That's awesome. I mean, you never want to see situations like that happen. I mean, you remember I mean it's what's happening there and a couple years ago when when Akron went 0 and 12, it's just like you don't ever want to see that because that's just not fun for anybody. I mean, that's
No,
not
no, it isn't. And I never really talk about work stuff on this cast, and that's not what I'm doing here. Because if you don't know, I cover literally a different sport and everything, but everyone helps with it. And I put it this way to a couple friends. I said, is it probably still going to be a tough year? I don't know, maybe, probably, but. For 1 year, for 1 week, for the first time in 2 years, could an entire student body lift their head up a little higher? Yes, and it felt that way, and it was awesome to
Mhm.
see. And for everyone I work with and staff, it was just tremendous. So that's why I just wanted to say, say that as far as this, and also just this past week was a really rough one for the MAC. Generally, yes, Ohio beat West Virginia in a game that was ridiculous that it happened at Peden Stadium, but like EMU, UMass, they both lost to FCS teams, and then there was just like a whole bunch of blowouts. So it's like, well, this is MAC football in September,
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Of which I want to go back to Bowling Green for a second because
Yeah, for
I
sure.
have a thought. I have a thought. I based on the way that they played against Lafayette and the way that they kind of played against Cincinnati, I have a theory that like this coaching staff, I don't know, maybe I'm just looking into it, but like I wonder if this coaching staff is sort of coaching very in like I guess you could say a diet schematic for September like non-conference play
Mm.
because like they just know what it's going to be. And so I wonder if they're approaching it of like let's just not get injured on against these Power 5 teams
Yeah,
and then we'll hit MAC play and just try and play our hardest against the MAC opponents. Like
I
that's the
I
way
would
I'm
agree.
kind of reading it.
I would agree.
Like they're
Yeah.
because like I mean, it worked because like we were competitive in both. But like last year, we played and coached our brains out against Penn State and Texas A&M, and like we were very competitive in both those games.
Both those games
And and
could have
I
beat Penn
think that
State
like
straight up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think that like maybe the approach they're taking is just kind of like let's just kind of get through these four games. Let's win. eh, Maybe more so of let's beat Lafayette. This is the week it'll be interesting. Is the Liberty game is where I think it could get real interesting because Liberty's a winnable game,
Yes, it
and
is.
so it'd be great to walk out of September 2-2.
Would be. And I don't think Bowling Green beats Louisville after that. So, as of right now. So, I'm with you. I also think that, like, don't do anything crazy that gets anyone too injured, like you said, because that could really affect you in MAC play. I still think BG's, not a ways away, but away from winning a MAC title or
Hmm.
really seriously contending for Detroit. But depending on how these next couple of games go and like the start of MAC play, because you start with the defending MAC champs in Ohio, like, and then Toledo and CMU, like it starts immediately with like that, and I'm like, well,
Yeah.
okay. I mean, you're, and then of course Buffalo's pretty good, and then it actually gets weaker as the year goes on. So, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
That's one of the hardest things about MAC football is that you don't really have you know what you have in your team yet until like October because it's sort of like, all right, who's injured, who's not, who could we beat, who we cannot. We got if we got blown out in all of our pay games, whatever, that was probably going to happen anyway. Like
Yeah.
so, you just don't know. So, um, let's switch it to the NFL to close things out,
Yep.
my friend, because the NFL is 100% back. And instead of talking about our teams, let's begin with how the Ravens are already in playoff. We can blow a game in the fourth quarter mode because that was
Yep.
awesome
Yep. Yep. That
on
I
Sunday night.
peak playoff form. Yeah. Yeah, that was real interesting. Look, I we'll get to my team, but like it for the Bills having like a reputation with uh kicking issues in
Yeah.
at least 30 years ago. I hilarious that like Matt Prater just walked off the street coaching his son's football team and
Yep.
was like, all right, let's just win this game.
I can kick a ball like at least 40 yards at a somewhat accurate level. Um, it's interesting, man. 'Cause I don't want to say that yet, quite yet, but I think it's more the testament of just like the Ravens are the new team that can't beat the Bills, sort of like the Bills can't beat the Chiefs. I mean, so
Yeah.
far, yeah, we've seen. I will go and say, like, Josh Allen and those boys put up 22 points in the fourth quarter and snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. And I'm like, this is the kind of dog mentality like that these dudes need. These are the nitty and gritty games that they need to find a way to win to finally get this off their back, you know? And
Hmm.
I don't know, man. Josh Allen's had probably one of the best years a man like in his life that a man can have, really. And I'm thinking to myself, who's to say that they wouldn't just go and win the Super Bowl this year too? They wouldn't be my
Look,
pick. I'm going to say that
I
right now. But
as
if he's playing this well to start the season, which he has not done at times over the last couple of years, look out!
right, right.
Look out!
As the
Hmm.
infamous Bills window is closed guy. Um I will say like if they can't get it done this year, they're never going to do it. I mean, this is the year because like they got a huge win that is going to matter for seeding against the Ravens
100%.
and
That's a
the
big
Chiefs
win.
look like trash. So like the AFC is the Bills to lose at this point.
I think so. And the Bills would probably sit here and say, no, it's the Chiefs until they actually lose. And it's like, well, okay, but
Well, I mean they did. So
right.
I mean
The AFC, that is. The AFC.
I I don't know I mean I don't think the Chiefs are winning the AFC West, so like we'll get into that conversation.
That's fascinating because one of the reasons I'm probably going to win my fantasy thing to start is the amazing play of Justin Herbert, who is one of my two main QBs.
Yeah.
Chargers could be legit this year. They really could. I want to talk about a contrast here between our two teams. Obviously, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. You
Hmm.
are most of the time a Cleveland Browns fan until they inevitably like annoy you and you start rooting for the Chiefs or the Seahawks or some other
Yeah. Yeah.
garbage. But this
Yeah.
is week one, so I don't expect that until maybe week like eight. Week 8 or 9 is usually around when he starts to do that, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Pretty
mean,
much.
look at
Yeah.
the last couple of years anyway. Um, I had a question for you because I thought it was a pretty amazing stat. There's so much said about the Browns quarterback situation. We all know what it is, and it is what it is, okay? How many kickers have the Browns had in the last 10 years?
Yeah,
Real
so
question.
it there I saw a picture going on Twitter that was like the Browns quarterback jersey, but with kickers. It
Oh,
was a Phil Dawson jersey with like all the ones after Phil Dawson added on. And
mm,
so that's something else too, is that once Phil Dawson retired, it's just been a revolving door of mediocre and trash. And
oh,
it's insane. It's insane.
and when kicking in the NFL is so difficult, kicking at any level of football is difficult, but kicking in the NFL is so tough because one to two misses and basically you're out of there. In big
I
situations.
which by the way,
Yeah.
another reason the dome is going to be good. Like
Yeah.
I have a theory that our kickers suck because like our kickers don't know how to kick there. Like it's I don't know why opposing teams kickers are so much better at it than our own. I don't get it. Like
Kick.
there
Well,
was a game I
yeah.
think it was last year to where like I can remember a game to where like our own kicker missed two kicks and then like the Chargers kicker didn't miss at all. And I was like, how is the Chargers kicker who plays in SoFi hitting all these things and our own guy who practices there can't hit him?
I
Like what is
mean,
happening?
hey man, notoriously it's hard to kick there. It's hard to kick in Chicago, right there on those lakes. I mean, it's interesting. The reason I ask that is because the Steelers very briefly after Sean Sweezum, BG alumnus, shout out, went down with a season-ending injury in the Hall of Fame game, whatever year that was. The Steelers were in it, which was such a heartbreaking thing because he probably had another decade with the Steelers, like genuinely. The Steelers went through a really awkward season where Scobie was in there and finding the kicker. Over the course of that year, we found Chris Boswell, who has shown out and shown up and nailed his career hot long against the Jets this past week in a kick where even I, when we were arcing up for the actual, I had like a four screen going because I was also like helping cover soccer social. So I wasn't really just watching football, mainly watching soccer. But I saw the Steelers lining up for what was that, and I was like, okay, they're probably going to punt here or go for it. I looked at where the logo was, and I saw we were going to kick, and I was like, what? And I'm like, I mean, okay, they're going to hit it, and he nailed it from probably was going to be good from 68 yards, honestly. And that was like the most impressive thing I've seen. And I think to myself, this is why if you're a legitimate kicker, don't get me wrong, I know Justin Tucker is probably still a Hall of Famer, best most recent guy to be considered like one of the greatest kickers ever. If you're a good kicker in the NFL, anything beyond like 5 years, like you've at least had a true great career. Beyond
Mhm.
10, you're probably in the conversation for Hall of Fame just because of how
Yeah.
hard it is and how good you have to be for that long and what you have to do to your body. It's a weird thing you have to do. And to be able to do that like through your 20s and through into your 30s and 40s, like Vinatieri did, like at a really high level, is insane. But I don't think we appreciate special teams enough because the Steelers did that, took the lead, and then a fumble recovery on like I think the ensuing kickoff basically won the game for us. And I just think of
Mhm.
like if the Browns had like a Boswell at any point, it's like, listen, if everything else is going wrong with our football team, at least we know our kicker's solid. You know what I mean? Which is why I thought it was interesting just the contrast of those two games and how
Yeah.
special teams can win
I
and lose you games is all.
Exactly. I mean, it's definitely infuriating. I mean, because like we missed the extra point, whatever, and then we're in the position to kick the field goal to win the game, and it's like, okay, now's your chance to redeem yourself, and nope, that's also bad. And it's like, okay, like I
I'm not trying to pile on, by the way. I'm
I
really
don't
not. I'm
know. I don't know if like Hopkins was actually worse. I don't know where he
eh.
was right now. He wasn't great last year, but like I don't think Hopkins is missing both of those kicks. Like
Mm,
he's making one of those.
one of them.
Like I don't think Hopkins is going to lose you that game. And so I just thought it was absolutely insane to make that decision. Like at least like now, like it just felt like this is like okay, I didn't I would like because we had to eat quite a bit of dead money to cut Hopkins, and I was like, why are we doing this? Like,
Yeah, man. So, like I said, it's Cincinnati and Cleveland, a game that always can go either way. So, I really wasn't trying to pile on. I just thought the
I
contrast of those two football situations was interesting.
the only thing that I my only main thoughts about the Browns game are like 40-year-old Flacco looked really good, and I was so annoyed that that was the waste of that performance. Like
Yeah,
Flacco was on one. He technically has two picks on the stat line. Both of them were like the receiver bumbling them into the hands. It was like, come on, like seriously.
Flacco,
Uh,
man.
and then I Harold Fannin, absolutely terrific showing. He was one of the stars of the game for sure. Because he came up with some pretty big time
Shout
and big moment catches.
Shout
So
out friend of the show James, who went viral with another tweet basically saying that he should have won every award when he didn't win a
yeah,
single one,
yeah,
being the
yeah,
best tight end in college. I'm like, dude, watch him be the best guy in the NFL out of that whole class. Like that
yeah,
happens all
yeah.
the time with Mac players. Last thing I'll say on the Steeler game, watching Jalen Ramsey absolutely plant that dude and knock the ball free to win the game was like the most steel curtain way the Steelers could win a game I've seen in a while. And I was like, you know what? On a day where Aaron Rodgers looked good, the offense looked good, and the defense looked bad, it had heralds of the killer bees. But when it came right down to it, I was like, well, that was like as Steelers a football play I've ever seen. He just Justin Fields makes good pass, dude gets laid out on a legal hit to win the game. So and on the fourth down, so that was that. Uh, I do have a question for you. Are the Dolphins going to go winless? Or is Daniel Jones just that good? That much better. I think
Uh,
I think that was kind of shocking. Like I mean, people thought the Dolphins were going to be bad. They got absolutely steamrolled by the Colts.
I don't think the answer is Daniel Jones is that good. I'm pretty safe in guessing that.
I agree.
But yeah, I mean, I think. I think there's definitely a lot of heads turning against the Dolphins situation.
Hmm.
I mean, I think Tua might be cooked. I think we've been seeing that for a bit.
Yeah.
And I think it could be a tough year, but yeah, I think they're probably going to be looking for a new quarterback.
Quarterback, maybe new guys on defense. Remember, they did make a
Yeah.
trade with the Steelers, contrasting. That's why I wanted to kind of bring up the Dolphins after I just talked about that play with Jalen Ramsey. But uh, I will also say the interesting stat that I'll go ahead and say here. Um, Andrew Luck nor Peyton Manning ever had a game in their time as the Colts at quarterback where they scored on every single possession, and Daniel Jones did it in one game. They scored on every single possession. That's a
I
wild stat.
I I almost want to say
That's
that
ridiculous.
I this that might have been the spirit of Ursay flowing through him
I agree.
probably.
I agree.
Um
Shout out to the late Jim Irsay. And it
that
was
that
Jim
would be
Irsay
my
day.
thought.
It was Jim
Yeah.
Irsay day. And maybe that was just one of those days where like the 78 Steelers would not have won in that game,
Yeah, yeah, like
because they were
you can't
playing.
lose on Ursay Day. Like you
No,
can't.
exactly. It's like when Everton opened up their new stadium here a couple weeks ago, and I thought to myself, the Invincibles of Arsenal in 2003 would not win here today. Like
Yeah.
they're winning this game. They're winning this game no matter what. So yeah, or like when they reopened the Superdome after Katrina, like and he's like the 78
Yeah.
Steelers would not win tonight. Like no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
72 Dolphins would not win here tonight. Like, it's one of those moments. So hey, it is what it is. Any more games you want to talk about before we roll out of here? We got one more tonight. That'll happen. That'll already be out. But any other takeaways from week one?
Yeah, I mean,
Let's have it.
I know we said it at the time, I think when the coaching changes happened, but yeah, I have a feeling the Lions might be cooked. I
Mm,
mean, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, maybe the Packers are just like the Packers are gonna, steamroll, but there were a lot of people I think that were questioning like what are the Lions gonna look like without Brian Johnson, and I mean, I don't know. Or
We
Ben
did,
Johnson. I
we
sorry.
did, or
I
we
don't know.
Ben, I mean, at least Ben Johnson. But we did say that, and I think we did say something along the lines of like, if Lions fans are talking about Ben Johnson like at week 5 or 6 during the year, bad stuff's probably happening because it's like, uh-oh. I think also contrasting, if you are a fan in the NFC North that's not a Packers fan, you probably hate Jerry Jones right now.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Thanks
Yeah.
for
Yes.
thanks for
I
handing him to
yeah.
them.
I also,
Appreciate
by
it.
the way, I this was pointed out and like absolutely insane to think about that every single other head coach in the NFC North was at one point Jared Goff's offensive coordinator.
Mm. Wow. Okay.
Ben Johnson, Matt LaFleur, Kevin O'Connell, they were all his offensive coordinators.
But not counting his current head coach.
Well, no, yeah, yeah. I'm saying the
Oh, I
other
got you. I got you. I
opposing,
got you.
yeah, the opposing head coaches in the division were
Gotcha.
all at one point his offensive coordinator.
It's funny how the league works like
So
that, man.
so like that's kind of insane.
That's a
And
cool stat.
like if I'm Jared Goff, I'm trying to get out of there because those are the guys who know how to put you in a blender.
Know how to actually
Like
beat you. Yeah.
like that's the thing that I don't think was talked about because it was only like before this year, it was still 2 out of the 3. So it was like him going up against LaFleur and Kevin O'Connell probably, is always a hard thing for him because they all know what he doesn't do well.
Yeah.
And so they're all able to provide some scouting on him and say, like, I coach this guy, he doesn't know how to do this. Like,
And I wanted to go in here. Micah Parsons, I think, only had one. He only had one tackle in his debut, but that doesn't matter. Like if you're a Packers fan, I'd be like, "Oh, this is sweet." It's sort of like when the Steelers got Minka. I was like,
well,
"Well, like I don't know. We'll see how much of an impact he'll have, but
it,
wow.
it, it doesn't matter. I mean, because if you're like a running back, you're going to run to the other side to where Micah isn't. Like,
True, true.
so he could have a 0-0 stat line and like still be a game wrecker
And
because him being
yeah,
on the field disrupts the play.
and the last game that I did watch almost all of until the delay, just because it was the first opening night, the Cowboys did not look completely cooked. They actually moved the ball pretty well against the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles essentially outlasted them. The Eagles, there was no answer for Jalen Hurts' rushing TDs. And then the delay
I
happened, and then nothing happened after that. So I
I
don't,
I
I'm
almost
not
want to
saying the Cowboys are going to
say
be good. The still Cowboys are still not
I
going to be good,
I
but
almost want to say that I think that says more about the Eagles because like watching that game, like it felt like they were allergic to throwing the ball to their receivers, and so it
yeah, a
was just
little
kind of
bit.
like
Yeah,
I don't. I was like, you got like. I was like, who are you afraid of? Like, it's not like the Cowboys have the tightest secondary in the league. Like, what are we doing here?
it's the
And it was just
Cowboys.
kind of, it was just very odd. And so I don't know if they came in wanting to just like play that way. I don't know. I don't
I
understand it.
I kept waiting for I even said this to a Cowboys fan that last Thursday. I said I can't wait for the moment like Jalen Hurts or Saquon or someone runs right through the hole where Micah used to be and breaks it for like a 40-yard touchdown run, and they immediately hard
Yeah.
cut to Jerry Jones.
Yeah, like I would love
That
to
didn't
see like
happen though.
a I would love to see a video on Twitter of like of like a play that they ran last year that like Micah stuffed and then the
Yeah,
same play this year and like Saquon just broke it for a touchdown.
yeah, and that nothing like that happened. But like you said, personnel's change, people change, teams change. No 2 years are the same.
Yeah.
So, and that's your week one, y'all.
I one one other note that I just want to at least mention is
Sure.
I at one point during the Browns game yesterday Fannin lined up in the Wildcat and did a direct snap. And I was like, oh, I was like, okay,
Oh, I think I
Stefanski.
saw that. So they are going to use him for some
I
crazy
I
stuff.
I was very intrigued because from the gameplay I saw and could tell is Flacco loves him and he trusts him to be where he's supposed to be and to catch
Oh
it.
yeah.
And Stefanski trusts him and dials up plays for him. And so if you are a Harold fan and lover, the he's going to be doing good things
He
on the
could be a
Browns team.
dog, and they've
Yeah,
had every quarterback throwing to him all through camp, and they said he looks amazing all the way through camp.
yeah.
So it's like he's definitely that I'll just throw it in his general direction, and he'll somehow come down with it kind of guy.
There was a catch that like there was a play to where it like kind of broke down, and then like Fannin just made himself get open. Flacco saw it and threw it his way, and he just
Hmm.
caught it, and it was like and it like saved the drive.
Just
And
your
yeah, it
check
was
down guy. Like,
yeah.
yeah, I think this could be the beginning of something beautiful for one Harold Fannin Jr. But that's the show we got. I will also say that it's cool to see like him look exactly the same uniform wise as he did last year, just because
Yeah.
Bowling Green looks so much like the Browns right now.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
he officially switched back to 44, which I figured he probably would.
mhm.
And that is a sick tight end number. I
It
love it.
is. It is. 44 is a good one and a coveted number if you go to one Syracuse. Oh, yeah. One last thing I'll mention because I forgot to mention it earlier. It is wild how the Power Four team I root for won a game and their coach punished them for not winning by more. I don't know what that says in 2025, but that's wild work by Coach Fran Brown. We didn't.
I mean, hey,
He
look,
literally agained them like in Miracle. Oh, if you guys aren't going to
yeah,
work during the game,
yeah.
then we're going to work right now. That's also incredibly disrespectful to UConn. Like that's insane. It's insane, right? I
Yeah,
immediately thought I'm like
yeah.
that's actually amazing to do to UConn. Like, wait, they should have beat us by more and they're being punished. Like, like, am I wrong? Like that's crazy, right?
I mean, I don't remember what they finished last year, but like they were in a bowl game recently. Like they're
Yeah,
not bad.
it's like,
Like
well, thanks, Coach Brown. I mean, wow, beat us, and then oh, you guys didn't win by more. Like, anyway, that's my sign
I
off.
mean,
Like,
look, yeah, I mean that's his style, and I respect it. I mean,
oh yeah,
credit.
I was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know whether to be like appalled, like pumped up, or be like, man, this guy's kind of my hero.
Look,
2025.
yeah, I mean he's like
Like,
he's like
wow.
yeah, I look, I mean, and that credit to that guy. I mean, because he's like, look, if you're looking for a $2 million NIL deal, that ain't me. I'm
You
not
know
I'm not
what?
paying you. Like you're gonna come here
They're
because we're
getting paid.
dogs.
That's true. That's true. So he's trying to make Syracuse football a bunch of dogs, man. But that's our show for a Tuesday of this week. Thank you everyone so much for listening, watching, however you took it in. Thank you, brother, as always. Any final thoughts?
Uh, 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 I guess the only thoughts I have are uh I'm hoping that there will be a general manager change in Cleveland at some point. That is the only thing I'm hoping for. Because I was talking about it earlier today. With somebody, and I there was a concept brought up about John Dorsey, the general manager who was there before, that ended up drafting Baker Mayfield, and that offseason they kept Hugh Jackson when we could have hired Mike Vrabel instead. And
Mm.
so it was kind of like, could you imagine if they just fired Hugh after he went 0 and
Bef
16?
Before the next show?
What?
Before our next show?
No, no, I was just saying that
Oh,
like
okay.
that like
Okay.
back in time in like in 2018 when uh when we drafted Baker Mayfield, I we could have fired Hugh Jackson and hired Mike Vrabel instead.
Ah, okay.
And that would have gone a very different route.
I
And
thought you were
so
making a next week
no,
prediction. I'd be like, well, that's kind of
no,
crazy
no,
if they're
no,
firing their GM right now. But yeah,
no. I but they should at some point this year. Yes.
place. I could see it.
Yeah.
Well, until then, this is Kellen,
This is Casen.
and we'll see you as always at the next stop.